Have you ever stumbled onto something so outrageous, so unbelievable, that you had to blink twice to be sure it was even real? That's exactly what happened to Daniel Harper, a quiet family man living in Sycamore Grove, a neighborhood where everyone thought their biggest drama was trash pickup day. But behind the manicured lawns and pastel-painted mailboxes, something sinister was happening, and Daniel was about to uncover it. It started innocently enough. Daniel had just taken his dog, Max, for a walk one warm Saturday morning. Usually he stuck to the sidewalks and cul-de-sacs, but Max pulled him toward the wooded trail at the edge of the community. That trail was technically off-limits. The HOA had declared it closed for maintenance months ago. Signs warned of unsafe conditions, but Max tugged hard and curiosity got the better of Daniel. The path was overgrown, but as he pushed through, Daniel noticed something strange. Wheelbarrow tracks, fresh tire marks, even footprints leading deeper into the woods. The further he went, the less it looked abandoned. Someone was using this path regularly. Then the sound hit him. Splashes, laughter, music. Daniel froze, crouching low. He peeked through the branches and saw it, a massive shimmering swimming pool, complete with cabanas, lounge chairs, and even a tiki bar set up. It looked like something out of a resort brochure, not a suburban HOA community. And who was sitting there, sipping from a glass with a tiny umbrella in it? None other than Margaret Wilkins, the HOA president herself, in oversized sunglasses and a pastel sun hat. Daniel couldn't believe his eyes. A luxury pool, hidden in the woods, and the president herself relaxing there? He snapped a few quick photos with his phone, heart racing. But as he turned to leave, Max barked, loud enough to echo. Margaret sat up, her sunglasses sliding down her nose, her eyes locking on him. "Daniel, what are you doing back here?" Her voice was sharp, accusing. Daniel stammered, I was just walking the dog. I didn't know." Margaret stood, clutching her glass. "This area is restricted. You're trespassing on HOA property. You need to leave now." Daniel didn't argue. He pulled Max's leash and walked quickly back down the trail, but his mind was already spinning. What was that pool? Why was it hidden? And how on earth had it been built without anyone noticing? One thing was certain, Margaret had a secret, and Daniel wasn't going to let it stay hidden. Daniel didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he pictured Margaret lounging by that pool, sipping drinks while homeowners like him were being fined for trivial nonsense. Chipped paint, mailboxes half a shade off regulation, even grass being too lush. The hypocrisy burned. So, Daniel did what any determined homeowner would do. He started digging. First, he combed through the HOA newsletters and financial statements, the ones Margaret emailed every quarter. They were vague, full of general maintenance costs and community improvement projects. But one thing stood out, a suspicious line item labeled Woodland Beautification Project, totaling over $75,000. Beautification? Daniel had walked those woods countless times. There were no flower beds, no benches, nothing to justify that amount of money. Unless... The next day, he struck up a conversation with his neighbor, Trish Morrison, who had once served on the HOA board before resigning in frustration. "Trish, did you ever hear about a woodland beautification project?" he asked. Trish rolled her eyes. "Beautification? Ha! That's just Margaret's way of burying expenses. I left because she refused to show us receipts, said it was board business only. Why?" Daniel hesitated, then lowered his voice. "Because I found something in those woods. A pool, a big one." Trish nearly dropped her coffee mug. "A pool? Are you serious?" "Dead serious. She was there yesterday. It's like a private resort." Trish leaned in. "Daniel, if that's true, then she's stealing from all of us." The two of them began piecing it together. Margaret had been raising HOA dues steadily over the past 3 years, claiming costs were rising. She'd introduced new fines for absurd reasons, and homeowners were paying them just to avoid legal threats. And all the while, she'd been funneling that money into her own secret paradise. But Daniel knew accusations weren't enough. He needed proof, hard proof, receipts, records, something that would expose Margaret beyond denial, and that meant breaking into the very place Margaret kept under lock and key, the HOA office shed behind the clubhouse. That night, under cover of darkness, Daniel and Trish crept to the shed. With a slim flashlight, Trish jimmied the lock, old habits from her days managing neighborhood keys. Inside, filing cabinets lined the walls. They rifled through folders until Daniel's flashlight landed on it. Invoices for construction equipment, concrete, luxury lounge furniture, pool maintenance supplies, all billed to Sycamore Grove HOA. Daniel's pulse quickened. This was it, the smoking gun. But just as he slipped the papers into his folder, headlights swept across the shed. A car door slammed. Margaret's voice rang out cold and sharp. "What do you think you're doing in here?" "Don't forget to like and subscribe." The beam of Margaret's flashlight nearly blinded them. She stood in the doorway, her pastel blazer now swapped for a silk robe, as if she'd been interrupted mid-evening swim. Trish stepped forward. "We know about the pool, Margaret. We've got the invoices. You've been stealing HOA funds." Margaret's face hardened, but she didn't flinch. "Careful with your accusations. This is all perfectly legal. That pool is a community investment, future plans not yet announced." Daniel held up the folder. "Future plans? Then why are you the only one using it? Why did you hide it from every homeowner?" Margaret's lips curled into a smile. "Because this community doesn't understand vision. They'd never approve something so ambitious. So yes, I went ahead without them. One day they'll thank me." Trish barked a laugh. "Thank you? For draining our dues so you could sip cocktails in a hidden resort? You're out of your mind." Margaret stepped closer, lowering her voice to a hiss. "If you two so much as whisper a word of this, I'll bury you in fines so deep you'll lose your homes. Think carefully before crossing me." Daniel felt the weight of her threat. Margaret wasn't bluffing. She had weaponized the HOA rules countless times before. But something in him snapped. He thought of every neighbor who had been bullied, every family who had paid money they couldn't afford, every child who couldn't ride their bike without violating a made-up rule. Enough was enough. The next day, Daniel and Trish launched their plan. They made copies of the invoices, photos of the pool, and even compiled testimonies from neighbors who had been unfairly fined. Then, at the next HOA meeting, packed with residents, Daniel stood up. "Before we discuss landscaping, I think everyone here deserves to know what their money has really been funding," he said, his voice steady. He laid out the photos, the invoices, the line items. Gasps rippled through the room. Margaret sat stiffly at the front, her face unreadable behind her sunglasses. But when Trish projected a blown-up photo of her lounging by the pool, umbrella drink in hand, the room erupted. "Is this where my late fee went?" one man shouted. "My kid couldn't even have a lemonade stand, but you've got a tiki bar," another woman yelled. Margaret tried to regain control, banging the gavel. "Order! This meeting is out of control!" But the homeowners weren't listening anymore. They were furious, united against her for the first time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. What followed was chaos. Homeowners demanded answers, demanded refunds, demanded Margaret's resignation. She stammered, insisting it was for the good of the community, but no one believed her anymore. Within days, Daniel and Trish had filed a formal complaint with the county inspector's office. It turned out the pool wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. Built without permits, without safety inspections, and entirely on land zoned for conservation. The fines? Astronomical. News of the scandal spread quickly. Local reporters camped outside the neighborhood gates, eager to cover the story of the HOA president's secret resort. Margaret's name became synonymous with greed and corruption. At the emergency meeting a week later, the homeowners voted, unanimously, to remove Margaret from the board. A new leadership committee was formed, with transparency as their first priority. One of the first motions? Freeze all HOA dues until the mess was sorted. As for the pool, the county ordered it demolished. Watching the bulldozers tear into the cabanas and rip apart the shimmering blue water felt like justice. Daniel stood with Trish, arms crossed, as the last fragments of tile were hauled away. "Think she'll ever show her face around here again?" Trish asked. Daniel shook his head. "Not a chance, but if she does, this time we'll be ready." In the end, the neighborhood of Sycamore Grove learned something important. Power only lasts as long as people are afraid to challenge it. Once someone shines a light on corruption, even the deepest secrets, like a hidden pool in the woods, can't stay buried. And for Daniel, the quiet man who just wanted to walk his dog in peace, he'd earned something far greater than victory. He'd earned the respect of his neighbors and the relief of knowing that sometimes the good guys really do win.